Hey, thank you so much for clicking this video. I am Matthew Msingati, the designer and developer. This is my YouTube channel, Coded Design, where I teach coding and user interface design. In this video, I want to take you from the front end to the back end. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take in the code what happens when somebody visit this URL, which is codeddesign.co.za. As soon as you click here, I want to show you the steps that are involved until you see this screen. Why am I doing that? What's the outcome? What's the purpose? What do I want you to learn from that? Number one, I want you to learn the MVC pattern, how the system organizes this screen. Obviously, now you might think that there is a file there called, let's say, a PHP file called login, and when you click here, the system jumps straight to that file and loads it. I want to show you how does the system applies MVC, meaning that this part, it's a certain component, it interacts with another part called controller, and also there is another part called the model. And also the second thing that I want you to learn from this video, it's object-oriented programming. Okay, without wasting time, let's just jump straight into it. Okay, I'm inside Visual Studio Code as my code editor. This is the folder structure. So where do we want to go? Firstly, we want to go to the first page that is being loaded when somebody clicks this URL, and that is the indexed page. Okay, this is the index page. This index page, it's more like an entry to the website. Every request passes through this index page. Let's just click it. Okay, so when you get before that there is this HT access. Okay, this HT access is more like a gatekeeper. Whatever that you type here, you will always be redirected to index page, so that every request can go through the index page. So this HT access is more like the gatekeeper. Whatever request that it receives, it always redirects it to the index page. So this is what this does. So as soon as somebody hits this file, it first starts read this HT access. This is more like settings, I can say. So it reads this HT access, and then it will know that it must redirect you to this page. Okay, now let's get into the index page. When you get into the index page, as you can see, this is a PHP file. Okay, in this PHP file, the first thing that I'm doing is to include a file called autoloader. The autoloader enables me to just create or instantiate object without including them. So if you want more information about that, you need to understand how does PHP uses file. In order for you to use a file in PHP in the script, you must always include it. It's more like, even though that's not the case, but let's say it's more like importing. That means taking something from outside and bringing it in, importing only in that case. And then from there, what I'm doing here, this is more like a test at the moment. Here, this code is more like a test. I will take it to some sort of a suitable location. Okay, what I'm doing here, before I do anything, I'm loading the JavaScript and CSS. Okay, meaning that, let's check here. Let's inspect this page. So that instruction loads all of these. Okay, so these are all my JavaScript file and CSS file. Okay, so this instruction does that. It creates a new object. This object, which is attached CSS and JS, will load all those files inside the head. Okay, and then from there, through the help of this autoloader, okay, let me just push this. Okay, through the help of this autoloader, I can now create some sort of a new file without including it. And also here, I've got a DI container. What is a DI container? A DI container injection container, meaning that it acts as a factory. What is a factory? A factory is a class that manufactures objects for me. Okay, as you can see here, I'm instantiating this object from scratch, but other object, or 90% of the objects, are inside this dependency injection container, the one that I'm instantiating here, so that when I want to use objects, I don't have to new them up. I just have to some sort of get them from here. So for now, take this as a container that contains other object, take it as a factory, and then from then I'm creating a new object again of the application, which is the actual application. And in this application, I'm passing a dependency, or I'm injecting a dependency, which is called a router, and I'm instantiating it. And then the router takes in dependency injection container as some sort of a parameter. So meaning that I'm injecting this as a dependency, because router wants to use this when it's operating, and also the app wants to use a router when it's operating. And then I'm done on this page. So that's what this thing does. So it seems like whenever you hit this page, this will be performed. There are no instructions, there's nothing, that there are no decision at the moment what needs to be done and what must not be done. So in essence, a class of application will be created. So let's just go to that class. Okay, in my folder structure, I've got Philantro, and inside Philantro I've got classes. What is Philantro? Philantro is my own framework similar to Laravel. So instead of using Laravel, I'm trying to create my framework as I'm developing applications. Okay, so let's look for the app classes. Here is the app class. Okay, let's take this to the side, move up a little bit. Okay, as you can see, here is the app class. So the app class has a private variable, or a private property called router. It's called router, and the type is router. Okay, this is more like a variable. And then this is a function construct. A function construct is always called when you are instantiating an object. Let me just bring up that index so that I can refer to it whenever I need to. Okay, so whenever I'm saying new application, this method is called automatically. It's called a constructor. Okay, so when it's called automatically, it receives router as a dependency, and then from then it will start a session. This is starting a session, and this router, which means this variable and this property, we are going to assign something that we have received from here, so that we can use it in this class, so whenever we want to. So I'm doing that here. Okay, and then let me scroll up, and then request type, okay, is equal to string to lower, that means server URI method. Okay, so now the app is starting to be concerned about the request. It's starting to work, starting to be functional, doing its own work. So it checks here, it's asking itself, how did the user get into the system, through which channel? Whenever you get to the system through this URL bar, that means you have used a get method. In this case, in my own application, this is a get method. And then when you are clicking here behind the scene, the JavaScript, for instance, when you're clicking here, so the system goes to the back end using a post method. So this has been fetched using a post method. So the application class wants to know which method, the request method, has been used. Obviously in this case it's a get method. Okay, so this is a switch statement. A switch statement, it's more like the if else. If this happened, then do this. If this happened, then do this. But it's a more shorter and simple way, or a clean way of doing it. So it's going to ask itself, here there is get switch get. So case, if it's get, then do this. If it's post, do this. Since it's get, what is it going to do? It's going to get in here. Remember, the thing that we want to do, we want only to load this page. Okay, so we are here now in the application class. So if it's get, of which in our case is a get method, then it cleans the URL and escape the entities. It's more like this is like preventing like people, the user, from typing a URL, let's say typing an HTML code here, something like this. This is an HTML code. So if this happens to be displayed here, let's say, as you can see here, I'm just testing something, but if that information happens to land here and it's an HTML tag, it's an h1 tag with content, it's not going to display like this. It will display like this. It's gonna be more like bold and bigger, of which we don't want that. So this HTML entities helps in that. It just kills that HTML tag. So when it's being displayed, it's not going to be displayed bold like this, but instead it's going to be displayed like this. So it's not going to have an effect on how things look and appear. Okay, so other things I'm not going to explain in detail, because in this video I'm just showing you the route, so I'm not going to get into details some of the things. Okay, and then this dot process request, and then we pass the URL. Okay, what is inside here, this URL? Okay, as you can see here in this URL, we are passing the request URI. What is a request URI or URI? It's this thing. It's this one. This is what it's there. So meaning that this whole thing that is here, it will be there. Okay, in case let me just, okay, let's just continue. I think the request URI, it's not necessarily the whole string. My mistake. It's not like this whole string including this one. It's starting from here going forward. Like for instance, if there was /user / let's say login. Okay, so the request URI will be this one without the domain name. Okay, let's continue. And then, so meaning that in our case here, we've got / in here. Okay, let's check, and then we will jump to, we will go to this function. Let's just say go to definition. Okay, and then when we are here in the definition, as you can see, also here we are clearing the entities, of which I think this is a double job. I need to refactor this and remove this, because on top there we already did this. Okay, so here we are saying routes is equal to explode, using this as a divider, and then what are you exploding? The string that we have sent there. That means the URL string. Remember, we said we only have /. So what does this explode does? Let's say we have a string like this. Okay, it will take this string and it will create an array. It's more like an array. It's more like a list of items, but it's going to break this string into pieces. How is it going to break it? Where is it going to know if maybe it must break this LO or the GIN or what? It will use this /. So it will take this whole thing, and then starting from here, it will make this user part of the list, and it will omit this /, because it's using it to break the string into pieces, and then it will also take this login. If there was another / here, it was going to take this as a different part of the list, and then if there was the other one, it was going to take this as a different part of the list. So it's going to have an array, a list of strings that have got this item, this item, this item, and this item. So in our case, we only got /. So After that is done, that will mean that we are going to have let's check, we are going to have 0 here because we don't have an item that will sit as in, let's say, item number 1, item number 2, item number 3. So it's only a forward slash, meaning that this is what it is. It's just something like this. Okay, so that means it's 0. And then from then it will also test again. Routes is equal to array merge 0. This just reset the, oh, I have jumped one instruction, which is line number 76. Okay, so after after we have exploded here, we have created an array using the URL. So here we are going to have an array with which is 0. That means it doesn't have contents in it. And then we are going to say routes is equal to array difference route. That means we put a space there. Okay, here what we are trying to do, whenever you are using a URI, there is this forward slash here. Okay, and then let's say there is a name here, and also there is a name here, and also there is a name here. Usually what happens, as you can see here, before this, remember we don't calculate this part. It's like before this forward slash there is an empty thing, and then after this forward slash there's an item, after the forward slash there's an item, after the forward slash there's an item. So the first item that will be there in the string, it's going to be an empty thing, because before the forward slash there was nothing. And then if there is an item here, this is going to item number 1. If there's an item here, this will be item number 2. So this array always has, it looks like this. Okay, let me just type it here. If we've got forward slash, let me type it here, item 1, item 2. Then this means that because there is an empty thing here, this will create an array like this. The first item will be empty because there is nothing. Remember, this is not part of that string, okay, the domain. Okay, so this will be empty, and the second item will be item 1, and the first, second, and third one, and the third one will be item 2. Then we close the array. So this is always there because we are starting from, like, there is nothing there. Okay, so when we are doing this, we are trying to say this array difference will compare this array, the one that we get here, and this one, and then it will just delete this empty part, which is, I hope I didn't delete it, or I've already removed it. It will only delete this first one so that we can get the remaining things without this, because we don't need this. So that's what we are doing here. Okay, so routes is equal to array merge. After I've deleted that, obviously in terms of the positions, okay, an array, it's a 0, it applies a system of 0 based index. It means that as a human being, when you are calculating how many items that are here, you will start from 1 to 3. However, when the computer tries to allocate position for these items, it doesn't start from 1 to 3, it starts from 0, 1, 2. So it's called a 0 based index. So this will be position 0, position 1, and position 2. So if I can remove this position 0, as you can see here, we are going to start at position 1. The remaining array, when this is removed, is going to position 1 and position 2, of which that's not let's say that's not logical in a way, because these positions are supposed to start at 0 when we've deleted this thing. Why don't this become 0? So this code does that. This one, let's say, point in case we have deleted 2 items. Let's say this position 0, 1, and 2. Okay, 0, 1, 2, and we've deleted the first 2. Which position is this going to be? This one is going to position 2. Imagine an array with only one item, but the position of the item is 2. It doesn't make sense, right? Okay, so here we are fixing that. We are saying please rearrange the array in such a way that all the position starts at 0 so that it can be 0 1 2. Okay, we are switching here. It's more like we are creating a fancy if else statement. Okay, we are using that if else statement using count routes, so meaning that we are checking here this route, this array, how many items do we have here. Remember we said we are going to have 0 items because we don't have items. Okay, so switch route, which is switch 0, case it's 0, case it's 1, case it's whatever. Here the case it's 0, so case 0, this, which is this class that has got a method. This arrow function means load a method. Okay, this class, which is the class that we are in, which is the app class, you are supposed to have a load, login, or landing method. The other important thing here that you must also take away is your naming convention. This I have learned from a guy called Uncle Bob. I can just say he's a genius in programming and software architecture and clean code. He has got a book called Clean Code. Let me just quickly search him. It's important that you search him and also you follow him on YouTube. So if you want to learn more about clean code and how to name your functions and whatever, here is Robert C. Martin, his Uncle Bob. So this is the guy. He's an American software engineer, instructor, and an author. Okay, so I was watching one of his videos, and he like sort of gave me an idea as to how do I name my function. As you can see, this function, it's called load, login, or landing. Okay, what does this mean? This is self-descriptive. This function, it's either it's going to load, log in, or it's going to land in. So by just looking at this function, you can tell what it's going to do based on how I've named it. It's loading, login, or landing. So after this, it's either we are going to have a login page or a landing page based on whatever decision. So let's just go to this function. Okay, now we are here in this function. Okay, double click. Okay, so we are here in this function. Remember, this function is still inside the application class. Okay, then here is the function. It takes nothing as a parameter. Okay, now what I'm doing here, also here, please, this needs to be refactored. I'm still testing. This is not supposed to be here, so that we can, it's like we must stick to the single responsibility. This class is not supposed, or at this point in time, this function is not supposed to echo something on the HTML DOM, but what it does at the moment, it just puts this name here. Okay, where is this name? You see this circular? This is how it gets it. It's an app name, it's an application name, but however, this is a bad practice. For we are violating a singleton principle, because this it's loading a landing or a login page. This is not loading or landing a login page. Let's just go quickly check. I think also Mr. Bob is the one who coined the solid principle. He's the pioneer behind solid principles. Solid principle. I'm going to show you the principle that we are breaking. The solid principle. I hope I can get a list, not a definition necessarily. Importance of solid principle. Okay, solid principle. Let me say list. Okay, solid principle list. Okay. The first one is single responsibility principle, as you can see. Okay, so now if we come to this code, what are we saying? As I've said before, this name, it's more like self-descriptive. This is part of writing a clean code. When somebody else is reading this, they must be able to pick up that this function will load log in, or it will load landing, depending on whatever decision, okay, or on whatever decision factor or deciding approach, okay. But now echoing, displaying something on the DOM, it's not part of deciding, as you can see. So that means this is wrong. I need to refactor, okay. Now we are echoing router, which is we are using the router that we have received as a parameter, dot login or landing, okay. As much as inside the app class we have a load login or landing, inside the router, actually the actual code sits in a router, not in a landing, not in the app class. Why is that so? Because the app class must stick to its own responsibility. The class that decides what to show and where to go is the router. Like, it has got some direction. It's more like it's what can I say? It has got the map of the entire application. So it's the one that is responsible for knowing what to do. Hence, now we are calling a router class. In the router class, we want a login or landing page, okay. So meaning that this is our first time now to jump out of this class, okay. So meaning that even on the script now we are supposed to be on a different script. So let's go to this function definition. As you can see, we have jumped to a router.php. Then now the router is responsible for routing, okay. So city landing page is equal to app session dot is home view set, okay. This home view, it's more like a dashboard, okay. The reason why we are getting is home view set, as you can see also, this function, it's more like asking a question. When I'm asking a question, I'm supposed to get an answer. Then in computer terms, when we are asking, there are two possibilities of the answer to whatever that you are asking. It's either the answer is going to be true or false. In this case, in terms of the Boolean value. So here I'm asking, is home view set? So here I'm going to get true or false. So if home view is set, what does that mean? It means that you have logged in before. That means your session is still active. So when you are coming back to the application, we must not take you to the login, because the home view, the dashboard is set. That means we can load the dashboard, just get into the system. But if you have logged out, the is home view set will return false. That will mean you have to load this screen. Okay, let's continue. If this looks like difficult, or it looks like a little bit confusing, please watch it over and over and over again. It will make sense as time goes by, but here I just want to show you how things are done, like the proper way, and how objects work with each other. As you can see now, these objects are communicating with each other, okay. And then from here we've got a value that we don't know if it's true or false, but in our case we know that it's our first time loading, so we are not logged in yet. So this is going to be false, because we have not logged in at the moment. If there is true here, then do this, okay. Do this, let me just put some space. If there is true, do this. Else, that means if there is false, return this. As you can see, if there is false in terms of the home view being set, that means you are supposed to be routed to the login page. So the router will return a new load view. Now, do you see that these classes are sticking to the single responsibility? And that is very important. Why the router doesn't some sort of have this load view class or login page, so that whenever this is false, then it just loads it in the same script. That's not a good programming practice. A router, it's like channeling things. It's like a gatekeeper. You know, when you are visiting a business, what is it? Let's say you are visiting a campus, a school campus. There will be always that guy who's a security guard in the gate, and you will ask him, where is the residence, or where is the HOD office, or where is the administration, and then he will channel you to that. So the router only acts like that security guard. It channels the request. It's not supposed to display information. Then somebody might ask, a beginner might ask, then why don't we just put everything in the same place? The problem is your code is going to be coupled together. It's going to be a spaghetti code. Okay, let's say tightly coupled code. Okay, let's first type tightly coupled code so that we can read and see what is a tightly coupled code. Tight coupling means class and objects are dependent on one another. In general, tight coupling is usually not good because it reduces the flexibility and reusability of the code, while loose coupling means reducing the dependency of a class that uses the different class directly. This is tight coupled, this is loosely coupled. Let's say we are building a new application and we want to reuse this router. If this router, there is a code that relates to specifically a login page that is inside it. Remember, this login page, it's a secular login page. Now let's say we've decided, or we got a job from Facebook, we are creating a WhatsApp application. It will mean that when we want to reuse this router, the login page of secular is attached to it, and we don't want that. We only want the routing system because we are happy with the routing system. It works well, but it means now there's also another burden of removing the login page here. Imagine if there's a login page, registration page, email verification, then that's tight coupling, and it's a bad programming practice. As you can see, this is tight coupling and this is loose coupling. That means you cannot reuse this code if it's tightly coupled. That's why I really don't understand, or not necessarily I don't understand, but that's not my own approach. I don't mix HTML with PHP, as I have highlighted. When I'm echoing something where I'm not supposed to echo it, I always have to tell you that I'm just testing. Generally, as you can see, 90% of the time it's not there. It's just those special cases where I'm debugging. I want to see things, just like here I am like echoing something. As you can see, I'm var dumping things, and also here, as you can see, I'm busy. Okay, as you can see, I am busy debugging the system, but generally I don't have to. HTML has to be on HTML, and the business logic, which is where we are, it must be the business logic, and the database needs to be on the database. As you can see, at the moment we haven't reached any HTML yet. We are busy with PHP making important decisions. So now that we know it's your first time in the application, what are we doing? We are loading a class which is load view. Maybe if this class is called load view, what it does, what might be its function. Okay, don't take it from me. Let's just take on Google, and then let's just search generally load view and see what is it going to say. Load view, what can I say? Load view, what? Load view function. That's not the case. If I want to ask what something does, what can I say? Let me just first type load view and see what's going to be there. Let me also check some images. I want to see what will come up. Okay, as you can see, it's showing me some views. Okay, let's see. Okay, let me just ask it this way for the last time. What does a load view do? Okay, let's just check here. Load view is a cloud-based load testing solution that helps development teams predict how a website or API and more it will respond various level of traffic control. Okay, this one is just maybe it's an application which is called load view. Okay, I didn't know if there is an application. Okay, create the view that the controller manages. This is what I was looking for. So what I'm trying to show you here is that your functions must be descriptive. That's a step number one to writing a clean code. Your function needs to some sort of tell itself what it does. So when somebody is looking at this function, let's say it's another person, he will say, okay, this is load view. What it does, I think it loads the view, and that's the case. It loads the view. What is a view? Then you can just go and check here, what is a view. Let's see, what is a view in software architecture, let's just say. So you can see here, a view is a presentation of an entire system from a perspective of a related set of concern. Okay, but a view is just this, a user interface. So this function, it's a load view. What it does, it loads the view. So you must be careful with naming your functions and your variables. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so now let's just go to that definition. So meaning that here we are jumping to a different class, and also I hope you are learning how these classes are working together. Okay, let's jump to that class. Okay, let's just come here. Okay, now as you can see, we are in a different file, and this method is called load view. What this method needs, this method needs a dependency injection container. Remember, we were here. Where is my index? Did I remove my index here? Okay, let me get it, because I want to explain something. Okay, remember here we said this application takes a router as a dependency. What is a dependency? A dependency is a class or any function that this application will use. So meaning that this application uses a router. It doesn't have a router in itself. Why? Because of we must stick to the solid principle. It must not become a router. The app class must not be a router, but it must use a router when it wants to, exactly as we have jumped from here to here, because this class wanted to use it, but it was not a router. If we can take all the code that is inside the router and push it into the application, that means the application now is also a router, of which that's bad. And then a router doesn't want to be a dependency injection container, hence the DI it's injected in it, so it's using it, as you can see. Okay, and then the router, it uses the DI, but as you can see, it's not consuming it for its own functionality necessarily, but there are some method inside it. Which method is it? The method login of this class wants to consume this DI container. It's using the same DI container that was injected on the index, this one. Okay, so let's check. So when it's calling this login page, it passes that dependency because the login page want to use that dependency. Okay, I hope you are not lost, but if you're lost, please ask me anything, then I will explain. As you can see here, we are still far from displaying any HTML. This is how the framework works. This is, I'd like to say, at least a decent way of doing things. Okay, and then when we are here in this load view class, and then we are using a method called login page, and then we are going to return this template. That means there's a method called template, and then we are passing a lot of things here, including empty arrays. Also, we are still passing the dependency injection container. As you can see that now I have carried a container, a class from application class number one. I've pushed it down to the router class. I have pushed it down to the load view class, also in the login page method, and also now I'm pushing it to another method which is template. And then by looking at that, I can start to see that I am carrying a class from one place to another, one place to another, one place to another. I would like to believe in terms of design pattern there is a solution for that. So when I'm refactoring this whole system, let's say 2 months from now, I still have to check, do I have to carry like this dependency, or there is a design pattern that can help me with that. Do you see now the design pattern are still popping up again? Design pattern are solved problems that occur in the software development industry, particularly object-oriented programming. So but I have to make a research on that, but I think I have seen some sort of a design pattern for solving this problem. I have got a dependency here. Okay, let me just change the color. I have got a dependency here on my application class that I am injecting in the router class. So this is the router class. Okay, this is the router class. The router class is carrying that dependency, and it's taking that dependency to what class? The router calls a load view class. Okay, at the moment this is where we are. Okay, so as you can see that I've passed this dependency to the router class, and the router class has passed the dependency to a load view class. That's where we are. Now I'm starting to see a certain pattern of a class that I instantiated here, but now I am passing it down the system, down the system, of which when I'm done demonstrating this, I'll just have to check on the internet what is that design pattern that can help me with dependency management, managing dependency. Which design pattern that can help me? I want to see. I believe there is a design pattern that solves this problem. So you can see that design pattern is not like complicated and architectural techniques that are used by YouTube, Facebook, or all other big application, all the tech giants, but even you in your code you can use design patterns. Okay, so let's continue. We are also injecting that dependency here on load template. Now let's go to a load template, but we are still in this class load template. As you can see, this the class that we are in, the load view class. We are loading a method called load view template. Okay, let's check on load view template. Okay, we're here on load view template. The load view template receives initial array as a string. It receives an array view controller, and also it received a dependency injection container, and it received post data and string class. Okay, let's just quickly check. As much as we are coming here, we didn't check also what are we passing. So remember, we are tracing the code here, so we cannot just enjoy jumping from one code to another without knowing what parameters do we have, more especially the ones that we are interested in the most, not the empty ones. Okay, so let's go back to not definition code references. Let's see. Okay, as you can see, this is where I'm referencing this class. Okay, so we are back where we were. Don't mind this because it's empty and this one is empty. This one is the dependency injection container, that means we will use it there. This one is empty. As you can see here, we are starting to be specific now. This was login page, as if maybe when we are here in this page we are going to get a login HTML when we were calling this. Remember, we are coming from here instead of when we are not logged in already. We said we are going to call a login page. Okay, and then from then we're here in the view. Here is the login page method, which takes di as as a dependency. And then we are passing, now we are calling template, and we are passing some parameters, and we are injecting the di container as a dependency. But this is what I wanted us to look. So there is this string login. Okay, then let's go to that class definition. Then when we arrive here, we can see this is empty, and we don't mind too much about this, and this array what, and then this is a dependency injection container. We know that this is array post, it's empty. And then here we've got login, that means string class. That means now this tells me the login that we're passing by there, it's a class, meaning that it must be a class name. Okay, if initial class post data, okay, here we are assigning on the initial class this one. Okay, we are assigning, we are taking post data, which is an empty array. We want, in that empty array, we want an item with the name initial class. That doesn't exist because we know that it's empty. Here is this, it's empty. Okay, we know that it's empty. If it doesn't exist, then assign an empty string here. If this doesn't exist, of which it doesn't exist, then there is an empty string. Okay, and then now this code is asking, also this is some sort of a bad programming practice. This is some sort of a dirty code. As you can see here, my code has been cleaned. There were no comments, as you can see. And also let's just talk about commenting. I think it was Uncle Bob. Let me just type here Uncle Bob on commenting code. I just want to test something, because it was him who said, I watched one of his videos, I think around clean architecture and clean code. He said commenting, it's a bad thing. Remember, that is opinionated. Clean code is an opinionated subject. Everybody has got his own opinion. So Uncle Bob on comments, I just want to see if maybe I can't quickly see any message from him. Clean code comment by Uncle Bob. Let's just quickly check that. I think it was him, and I was watching his video when he was saying you don't have to comment your code. That means the code is not expressive. Okay, let's see. One of my best source of learning how to write clean code is the content from from Robert C. Martin, aka Uncle Bob. Okay, let's see. I want to see what he said. The purpose of comment is to explain code that cannot explain itself. As you can see, this is what Uncle Bob is saying. To explain code that doesn't explain itself. So in my approach on writing code, obviously I might not be like the best, and I'm not there yet, but I like to write. I wish I can write a code that explains itself so that it can be easier for somebody else to read. Okay, then let's just quickly check what Uncle Bob is saying. Nothing can be quite as helpful as a good comment. Nothing can be quite as obscure as a bad comment. Comments are not pure good. Comments are a last resort. The the proper use of comment is to compensate for our failure to express ourselves in code. I remember this video and what he was saying. Or maybe if it's written in the book, on the book, I heard him saying it on the video. So hence I was talking about this comment. This is a code that has been commented, but let's just talk about comment in general. Let's say maybe a comment that say trying to explain this function, testing if it's empty. This is what Uncle Bob says. This is bad because it means that this code doesn't explain that. If this is empty, then this is what is happening. So this code explains that, so you don't have to comment. And also he talks about a code rot, a code that lies with time or it's misleading. If I have this is testing if it's empty, then after 5 years another designer come to work on my own code, and then for some reason this has to be changed to true, and he's in a hurry. Uncle Bob says that this designer will forget to change this comment because maybe he's that guy who really doesn't comment. So that means this comment is lying, because now it's saying test if it's empty, but this one is testing if it's true or false. So I just decided to just quickly give you my 2 cents on clean code. So this is wrong. I'm not supposed to have this here if I want to write a clean code. So this was just a code that I've commented. It's not supposed to be here. It's very wrong. Okay, if this is empty, and then return str var string value new templater. As you can see, now we are jumping to a different class. Okay, meaning that there is some sort of template here. This load view class make use of a template. As you can see, this is a method template. This is not the actual class, but it's just giving us an idea that now we are starting to get into a template. Okay, new templater, and then you are passing an empty string post data. Then again we are passing the dependency injection container. Okay, we are on load view. Then again we are passing a di container. I just want to keep track of how many times we've been passing this dependency injection container, and then maybe I will refactor this code and do it the other way. Okay, and then we are passing a class. Okay, let's see where are we getting this class. This class is that login. Okay, it's that login. The other thing that I want to share with you when it comes to a clean code, I'm not sure if this is the right English name, but a clean code is reverse traceable. If I want to know what is in this class, I can go here and trace that. Well, if I don't know what's in there, I can go to here and trace that. If there's something that I don't know, as you can see that this is the last stage of tracing. This is a literal value. This is not a variable. Some people, this is how they write code, of which I'm not saying maybe they are wrong, but there is this. Okay, let me just what can I do? Okay, let me just start a new PHP. Also, if I'm creating a new PHP file, it will form part of this, of which that's not IOBA. I don't want to disturb my own. Okay, let me create it here outside so that I can delete it. Yeah, I think it's outside. Okay, okay, let me say functions.php. Okay, some other people, they have files like these. Okay, let's say function display something. We are not going to use this class, so even if I don't have PHP tags there, okay, function display. Okay, function display, and function display will do whatever that is supposed to do. Okay, and sometimes they have some variables here. Let's say name. Okay, name is equal to the function called get name. Okay, if you look at the internet, okay, let me just put the PHP tags here so that our code can be formatted. Okay, PHP. Okay, so as you can see, I'm assigning this get name, and here this is the function. Some people, they've got a function file here that they will make sure they include it here on the index page. Here they will include the function file, so that wherever in the script, even here, when they want to use this variable name, they can just use it. Okay, let's say we are here, so that they can just use the variable name here. For instance, they might say okay, they might say username is equal to name. Where is this name coming from? Because it's already being included here. So meaning that if we are getting things under this function, everything that we involved here has gotten access to this file, because PHP treat this as one file. Okay, let me delete this so that my code cannot be dirty, and delete this one. Okay, so this method, I call it in my own in my channel. I call these magic variables and functions. I've got a video here. Let me first mute the computer so that anything that makes a noise here, it won't affect us. I have got a video in my channel where I'm explaining the magic methods and the danger. Like, to me it's a bad programming practice. Okay, the reason why I call these magic methods is because of they are not like, they don't conform to reversible tracing. I hope
Hey,
that's
thanks
a
for visiting my
proper
channel.
English,
I'm not
meaning
just
that
here to
when you
entertain you
trace
because
these
this is
variables,
coded
they
design where I teach
disappear.
coding
That's what I
very
say in that
scientific
video.
design. The
When I'm
only
tracing
one
this
thing
class
that I wish
variable,
you
I
can
can
take
trace
out
it
of this
back
channel
until I
and
get a
this
string
video in
literal
particular is that
or
we
a
are
value
only
where I'm
human. We
assigning it.
make
But if
mistake,
you've
we
got
get
this
things
function that you
wrong
include
sometimes. In
here,
this channel, I
and
hope I'm
then
going to give you the confidence
you
and the
have
courage to
used this
continue
name
even
here.
though
First
things
of
are
all,
not
if you want to
great.
track this
Maybe
name,
the
as you
code
can
is not
see,
running, maybe
there is
when you
nothing
start coding
highlighted here
HTML and
because the name
CSS,
is not
maybe
in
the
this
PHP script
function.
doesn't run, or
So
you don't
how,
even
where
know
are you
how to
going to
load
start if
a
you've just
form
got
or
a
a
variable?
PHP
So
form.
I call
Don't
these
worry,
magic
let's
variables. If you are
finish
using
this.
this function,
Let's do it.
that was this function that was included here, here, for instance, what's the function name? The function name is display, and then somewhere in the long load view, you are saying this is equal to display. Even though this might be highlighted red saying undefined function, but it will work when, like, what can I say, when everything is loaded here, more especially if you have included this here. I'm using object-oriented programming, but if I would have been including these files, this was not going to be highlighted, and it's going to work because PHP will treat this, everything that has been included here, it will treat it as if it forms part of the same file. So I call these a magic method because you don't know where they come from, you cannot trace them back. Okay, so I wanted to also share that with you. I did try this method of coding before, to just include files, and then enjoy the freedom, or of which is limitation, enjoy the freedom of just using names out of nowhere. You know, you don't have to stress, about writing a clean code and how do you trace things back. But there was a time where I was coming back to my code, I think after 2 days, there was a lot of magic variables and function, and since then I was done with that method. Okay, so let's just quickly go to this channel and see. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, please do me a favor and subscribe. Okay, I think that video has got something to do with 23 or whatever. Let's just quickly check here. It has got something to do with 23. Maybe I will check it when I'm done with the video. Maybe it's right there at the bottom, so it's not going to be easier. And you can see there's also WordPress courses. Okay, I will come back to it when I'm finishing the video. Okay, so you must avoid I call these, I don't know how other programmers call these, but when I encountered these, I was like, these are magic variable. They just disappear and appear and disappear and appear, and I cannot trace. Imagine if the person who was writing the code, cannot trace those, how can somebody else know? Okay, now let's continue. Now we are getting into the template. Okay, did we load the template? Let's close this because we don't want it. At the same time, let's delete it so that my code can be clean, because really I don't need it. Where is the function? I don't need this. Okay, and then we were here on load view, and then on load view we were loading template. Okay, as you can see, we are creating the return value. We are creating a new template, which is another class. Okay, let me push this, which is another class, and then we are passing some variable and we are passing login here. Okay, di container, we are still passing it down. Okay, let's go to another file, go to template. The other thing that I want to tell you is that object-oriented programming comes with a little price of a certain admin. There is a lot of administration here. As you can see, one might feel like this is too many files, and remember there is a shortcut to it, and I think in this video in my channel I'm calling it what do I call it? This video has been I did it long time ago. I think I call it window shopping, and the idea is it's not window shopping, it's shelf picking. Yeah, it's shelf picking. It's like when you in a shop, you don't have to consult somebody if you want to pick an item from the shelf. For instance, let's say you were shopping and you saw a beautiful sneaker. Usually if you are happy with it and you are happy with the size, you just pick the sneaker. So there is another method to coding besides let's say this object or object oriented programming thing, which is that one. When you are here on index, okay, let me just open this. When you are here on index and you want the login page, you can just go to the script that has got the login page. Okay, let me just move this. In my case, the login page, it's on UI components. Just a moment, where is UI components? UI components and login page. It's possible that you can jump from here and include this method. I call it shelf picking, because this is you as a client code on this index. You are picking a sneaker, which is also this. I don't need it. I think I use this for explaining something in the course or as I'm teaching. Okay, so as you are here on index, you can pick this login, because this is the login that is going to be loaded as a view. You can just quickly pick it. There is no one, you don't even need no one. If this is a sneaker, login sneaker, let's say that's a brand and you like it and it fits and you want to buy it, you can just pick it here. Versus ordering online. When you are ordering online, you can't just pick something. First of all, it's not around. You are at home and the shop is somewhere in a different country or whatever, different location. So meaning that you have to go to your app, you have to sign up, you have to make an order, you must make the payment. Do you see that admin? This is the admin that I talk about when it comes to object-oriented programming. But that admin prevents a lot of things. It makes your life easier in the future, because if you can do that admin of logging in and putting everything, that means next time you can just log into the app and buy whatever you want to buy wherever you are. You save the cost of going physically to a location, and also with that admin done, you can even order something like in another country, in USA, in Alibaba, in China, even if you are here. But someone who is used to shelf picking, to pick things on the shelf, they can't go to China just to buy a sneaker. Maybe if they are super rich. But this idea of an admin, obviously when you are starting, it looks like complicated, but believe me, with object-oriented programming, this is a necessary admin. So I was just trying to say, now we are on, like, I'm not sure, on the fourth or the third file, which is template. The only thing that we are trying to do here is very simple. We are trying to load this page. That's it. But we are going through a lot. As you can see, it's been a while since I've been explaining, but I haven't reached where I'm going yet. So this is some sort of an admin that comes with object-oriented programming. But believe me, this object-oriented programming, it's needed by the industry, it's needed by companies are looking for somebody who has got this administration, because even if that person can resign, the other developer can quickly join and follow through that admin. But if there's no admin, that means they must keep that person forever, and that's a problem. Let's continue. So we are here on another file now, templater. Okay, this is the constructor for templater. What is a constructor? A constructor is a function or a method that is called automatically when this class is being instantiated. As soon as on a calling code, which is a client code, as soon as you hit new templater, this will be called automatically, and it will receive these parameters. Okay, here is our dependency injection container. We are receiving it here. Okay, let me test something. What is this called in programming? It's not typecasting. I think it's what is this? I forgot about it now, but I will remember the term. As you can see here, I think it's typecasting. Here I'm always telling the program that I want to receive this type of an object, not the other one. So meaning that here in my code I've got a lot of classes. Let's say I also got load view, you see. So when it's type hinting. Yes, it's type hinting, not typecasting. So when I'm applying the type hinting technique, I'm telling the program, I'm telling the PHP engine that when I'm receiving this item, I want it strictly to be this type, so that in case somebody might make a mistake, or I might make a mistake of throwing in here a wrong object, this will throw an error, so that it cannot be too late, or the program will go in and execute things and then throw in an error later. So also this is important. As you can see here, I'm telling this is an array, this is a string. I'm not just receiving an anonymous variable. If there is a place where I'm receiving this as in some sort of, I don't type hint it, then I have to fix it. It's wrong. It's a bad programming practice. Okay, so the only important thing here, we can just say it's this class, the string class, which is login at the moment. Okay, now we've got injected injected HTML is equal to the initial HTML. Okay, let me just give you an idea of this template. Okay, this templating class, this is the beauty of I'm not sure, advanced object oriented programming or advanced programming in general. Okay, instead of applying the shelf picking technique, what is shelf picking? This is an index class. The index class is calling directly what? It's calling directly a login page. From index, you call it login page. This is what we are not doing. This is easy, yes, but we are a little bit advanced. We want to be better programmers. So what we do, I'm explaining the templater. We create a templater class. Number one, what does the templater class deals with mostly? What is its use? Okay, single responsibility is to manipulate HTML documents that are loaded. Okay, let's say, let me choose green, not for this one. Okay, this is a templater class. Okay, let me leave it as green as it is. Okay, this is a templater class, and then this templater class works with HTMLs. This is a group of HTML. This is login. This is what can I say? This is a navigation bar HTML and whatever. This is just a bunch of HTML pages. And remember, in terms of the single responsibility, these are only pure HTML. They are only pure HTML. They don't have a certain code. Okay, let me, okay, and then from then, this template, okay, this is a templater class, and then from then I have got which color can I choose? I have got a skeleton here. Okay, that's not okay. Let me click here. I've got a skeleton here. Okay, in the skeleton of mine, where is the fill color? Wish I can get the fill color, fill with color, but I'm not sure if it's working. That's not what I want, but let me just leave it anyway. I will use a gray. Okay, this is some sort of a skeleton here. This is a template, an HTML skeleton. Okay, this skeleton, for instance, let's say it has got a navigation bar, then inside here it has got a section, and then let's say it has got suggested videos, features for suggested videos. These are suggested videos here. So one may ask, is this a view? No, this is a view template. Also, I must some sort of rename things here so that this can be clear. Okay, this is what we are saying. This is a view template. The color is wrong, sorry about that. At least black color will do. This is a view template. It's HTML. Okay, this is a template. It's more like a structure. Let's say this is a container, a div, this is an empty div, this is an empty div, this is an empty div, but these divs are in these positions. CSS makes sure that it controls these divs to remain where they are. What is inside this div? These divs are just placeholders. Okay, so when I'm using this class, I'm not sure how can I increase the font here. When I'm using this class templater, the templater class, which is PHP, obviously it deals with HTML. That's its responsibility. Okay, it deals with HTML, but it's mainly a PHP class. It uses PHP to achieve whatever manipulation. Okay, so this class receives, if this is confusing, guys, please you can ask me anything. You can what can I say, watch the video all over again. Obviously it's not easy to explain these things because there's a lot of things to explain, but I hope you are getting there. I hope you are learning. Also, even if you are new into programming, but this will set you up for understanding how to think about these things so that you can create an application that is easy to maintain and it doesn't stress you every time. So this template has got some rules. The templater, it must receive a template. What is a template? It's this one. Okay, and then also it must receive pieces, even though it's receiving those in terms of names or references. It doesn't receive them physically, but it must receive some sort of a list of small views to be injected in the template. Okay, let me do it like this. Okay, I hope you are following along. Okay, it must receive names, a list of names to substitute. Okay, as you can see, this is our template. Okay, let me just quickly do some numbering. I hope I'm going to this is going to be small. Okay, so the templater class, what it does, it receives a master template, which is this one. Let me just write this. This is interesting. It receives a master template. This is HTML template. And then what it will also receive a list of these things. It's these ones. It's taking them from here. Let me just write. Let me use this. Is it the same? Yeah, I think it's this one. These pieces, where is it going to pick these pieces? This is a list of names of views, but where is it going to pick these views? These are the views. It's going to pick these views from here. Okay, I hope you get this. Okay, so now this templater receives a HTML skeleton as a string. and receive a list of classes to substitute to feed into these places. What are we trying to do here? Number one, we are trying to make sure that we are sticking to good programming practices by creating loosely coupled code. As you can see here, in these sections, we might have, let me just write, this might be a login HTML. The color, sorry about that. This might be a login HTML, this one. And then the other one might be, as I've said, a nav bar, a navigation bar, meaning that, let's say in our code we've got, when you press something, you use a different navigation bar when you want to. For instance, this one might be a side navigation bar that will pop in here, and the other navigation bar might be the one that sits on top. But what I'm trying to say, these are different views. It's not like I'm in index, I'm choosing the view that I want to know. This is more like it's tightly coupled going straight here. What if here I want to load something different? That means you have to go into the code and change those things, not in this structure. So go back to the explanation. This templater class will receive a string that contains a template of HTML. There is some sort of empty variables here. Okay, let me just make an example, a clear example. Where is my text now? Where can I get a text? I'm lost here. Okay, here there is a placeholder, a variable, a string, maybe that says what can I say, midsection. I wish I can increase. Yes, this is where I can increase the font. Very good. This is nice. I'm happy with this. Okay, good. That's what I want. I'm not a specialist in paint. It's been a while since I've last used it. Okay, in this container there's only this string. So this guy here, templater, knows that I have to search for this string and I have to replace this string as instructed with, as you can see, this is a list of names. Here in the middle there is this string. I must replace this string with another HTML string, which might be login, it might be navbar, it might be whatever. So what if maybe we want to change this layout? In here we want to put something else. That's simple. We are going to tell the templater that in this string it must replace it now with navbar. Next time it can replace it with login. Next time it can replace it with whatever. I hope you get the idea of, number one, having your code being loosely coupled and also sticking to the MVC pattern, because as you can see, these are the views and they are only views. It's just pure HTML. You can take this HTML and put it here, it will work. Take this HTML and put it here, it will work. It's not going to break because there is a class or PHP thing attached to it. It's like an entity unto itself. So this class, what it does, it's more like a template injector or something, or generator. It takes a template and it populates things according to what it receives. What if maybe we want to put this login view here? We can do that. We can change things here and tell that now on this position it must substitute that with this one, and then that HTML is going to be rendered as if it's like one page, whereas it's not one page. I hope you get that. Now let's go back to the templater. Okay, where we are. Okay, okay, this is the constructor of the templater. Okay, now this master template, as you can see, here is a variable for it. I'm still not happy about my variable naming here, so please forgive me. I wrote this as injected HTML. When something is being injected, it's being taken and injected. Whereas, to be honest, what this thing does, it does the opposite. It's the one that you inject the HTML in. It's more like it's receiving than being the one that is received. So maybe I have to change this. Obviously I have to change it to a better name, but the injected HTML is this one. It's this one. It's a template because things will be injected in it. So it's an HTML that contains these strings, this code. This code will be replaced by this templater and put all the corresponding views. Okay, so first of all, when we are using a templater, you must tell it that this is a structure that you must populate, fill in. Then where does it get that? It gets this from here. So this initial HTML is your first HTML, like your ground, your initial HTML. You start from this template. You start from this template. Okay, then let's continue. If this template is empty, what does that mean? I hope you also guessed it, that if this is empty, that means we are interested in loading a view directly without a template. Do you see that this is more like being advanced in a way, trying to make sure that in the future when it comes to doing whatever, we do it very simple, nice and easy and straight to the point. So let me just give you draw a curve, like for software. When you are starting developing a system, the curve looks like this. It's no, this is wrong. Okay, the curve looks like what? Okay, it looks like this. When you are starting, you do a lot of things, you write a lot of classes. A client might complain and be like, why are you not done? Why things are not happening? You are still setting up the structure. You are starting your application. This is where quick guys, they encounter a technical debt. A technical debt in programming, it's when you have done something very, very quick and don't change it. And as time goes by, you know in your heart that this is wrong. Somehow this will come back to me, but you don't fix it. And when it comes back to you, the debt comes back multiplied, because you knew that at some point I need to change this thing. So to do things right when you are starting a project here, it takes time. Some other guys might do it quicker and the client might favor them to be like, look, this guy did this and he's very quick on doing changes. First of all, you must set things up. Then now as time goes by, as soon as your things become stable, your code becomes stable, then you start to have a working templated working engine. Now when the client wants changes, you can quickly deliver on changes. When the client wants this, you can quickly this. When you want to add a feature, you don't go up and down the code, you can quickly add the feature. Now this becomes a solid and a stable thing, and it's very easier for you to do things now because you know where things are and you can swap things around without wasting a lot of time. Then there is a guy who's coding from home who's saying, no, this is the bad way. You see, with let's say the name of this guy is Rajesh or Matthew or MC. You see, MC can quickly do this thing. With MC, we're already done. We've got minimum viable product and we're already working. This is where we are. And then now MC is receiving some request on changing things, and he's hiring different developers, and those developers are fighting. The code, it's spaghetti. Soon MC starts to underperform, because as you can see, with time he will lose the project, or the project has to crash because has got a poor architecture. And this stress employees, because you will plug in a developer and think that the developer is not productive, whereas your code, it's bad. And this is bad, guys. In real life, people are getting into depression because the manager or the tech lead or the owner or whoever, the employee, the employer, want things to be done, and the developer doesn't cope because this is bad architecture. Okay, I hope you get the point. If you feel like this video is adding value, please share it with other guys that they need it, and also they want to know this information. And also please don't forget and be kind, go back to my channel and see what you can do. But the best thing you can do for me is to subscribe and also share the video. Okay, let's continue. Where were we? Okay, so we've got the initial class. So if this is empty, that means this guy is interested in loading the view directly. I think this is where we are starting to do what the quick developer did, the lazy developer did here, to just jump straight to login. But us, we only jump straight to login when there is no template here. Then we can load, we can go directly, let's say from here, and load the login because there is no template. Let's do that. Okay. Okay, we are assigning here the final HTML. There's no need. Okay, now here we are going to go to else. Okay, now we are getting into a loop. Okay, for each, that means we are looping for each what, for each view controllers. Let's go and check which are the view controllers. Okay, it's these ones. For each view controllers, the ones that we don't have at the moment as view controller, that will mean okay, I think my logic, I'm missing something here. I'm missing something here. Sorry, let's just quickly go back, because my mind is telling me that if we have a list of things to substitute, it will mean that for each of these sections, in this section we must substitute a view with something. In this section we must substitute a view with something. In this section we must substitute a view with something. As you can see, whenever we are dealing with for each, it's supposed that we are dealing with a template that exists. Without this template, we are supposed to go directly to a view and load it, of which here, based on what I'm saying, it looks like I've got things twisted, because this code loads directly the view. As you can see that it loads the class, it's login, and then here this loads the view directly. Okay, but this one, it's looping through that template for each view section that is here, then loop through it and replace these things accordingly. Put your login here, put your navbar here, put your HTML what here, and then render this as a string back to the calling code. Where is that? Okay, this controller for each of these things, this dot final. Okay, this is the final string. Okay, even though here I'm not returning it back, I don't really know why, but I will refactor that. But this is what I'm trying to say. Let's go back here and see this condition. Maybe we might have missed something here, because now I find myself here, whereas what I'm doing here is not what is in my mind. Okay, let's just quickly go back. Okay, with us, we don't have the initial HTML, it's empty. Okay, the only thing that we have here in these parameters, it's the di container and this class. Okay, that's the only thing that we have. Now let's come back. We are assigning this to here, injected HTML. Here is it. Okay, I'm happy with that. If, oh, now I see. Okay, now I see. Okay, if this is empty, okay, I don't know how I got here. My apologies about that. Maybe I'm a bit tired, but I have to be only tired when I'm done explaining, so I can't be tired. I also don't need to save anything. Okay, if this template, this one, if controllers, let's see, okay, let me go back again. This is an array. Let's go back to where we were calling this. Looks like I'm confused. Okay, but I will make sure that I unconfuse myself. So this is what we go through as developers. Maybe there is a better way to do this, but at the moment this is how I do it. Let's go back to where we were calling this template. Okay, let's see where we are saying new template. Okay, now it looks like okay, let me just go back here and see where am I referencing this. Okay, let's say template. I don't want to go to definition, I want to go to references. Okay, class template. Where else? Let me go to another reference. Okay, this is the only reference. Okay, that's not a problem. Let me be smart and use a Visual Studio Code thing and say new template. Then I found it. Okay, I am here in the load view and I'm creating a new template class. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this. Okay, I want to track the second variable, which is this one. Okay, I've got the empty one and I've got this one. Let's come here, new template. This initial string is empty. As you can see, there is a problem here. Okay, at the moment the code works, but that doesn't mean this is correct. Okay, it's a minor, what do we call these errors? There are errors. Okay, in programming there are syntax errors and there are logical errors. Logical errors don't break the code, but they produce wrong result. It's more like they are hidden, the logical errors. The program can work, but as time goes by you might pick up that there is a problem. So here I've got a logical error. At the moment it's working because whatever array that I've passed here, when you are asking if is that array empty, yes, it becomes empty and we load directly the login controller. But as you can see here, if we can copy this, okay, if we can copy this instruction where we are creating an instance of this class here, okay, here, let me put it here underneath, okay, and comment it, tap a little bit or back. Okay, as you can see here, this string it's empty because we are not going to use a template. There is no initial HTML. This is an array. Okay, this is an array. What is wrong with this? Number one, okay, here I'm passing it. Okay, I'm passing this array, but looking at this name, this array and this one are different. They are only the same because when you are getting into this code, when it's your first time, you are not sending any post data because this is a get method, so it will never have any post things because it's your first time, you didn't post anything. And for that matter, this method, it's a get method, so the post data will always be empty, hence this code is working. But this is wrong because I'm not supposed to pass the post data here. Maybe I was lazy and quickly shoved a post data since I know that it's empty. So maybe if I were to fix this, what would be the best way of doing it? That means I have to trace the code back, and then from then at some certain stage I have to pass an empty, what can I say? I have to pass an empty array, and also I have to make this meaningful because this is view controllers. These are view controllers, not post data. Okay, but as you can see, as I'm telling you that here this will be empty. Okay, let's just quickly do a very small trace. We're not going to be long. We want to know from here, I'm calling new template, where am I getting this? Okay, as you can see, this is not a magic variable. I can trace it back to the post data. So initial class is equal to post data. Okay, on that post data I'm looking for initial class. Okay, if I don't have, of which in our case we don't have this, this will be empty. Initial class will be empty. Okay, if initial class is empty, come here. Okay, That means I don't get post data here. Here I'm using the post data. Let's go back. As you can see, this is where I'm receiving a post data. It's an array. Is it empty? Yes, but it's not supposed to be called a post data even though it's empty. So as you can see, if I want to trace it back, I can trace it back until I find it, but the video is going to be too long. Maybe I'm going to do it on another video, but I hope you are learning something here. When I want to trace it, believe me, I can trace it until I find it without a hassle. I'm not going to reach a stage where it just disappears and I don't know where it is. So let's just continue knowing that this is a get method, so all post variables will be empty. Okay, now let's go to here. Okay, so let's ask again, is this empty? Of course it's empty because it's this post data. Is this array is going to be empty? Then if this array is empty, then controller is equal to class controller, meaning that now we are going to take login underscore controller. Okay, so this will yield here login, okay, login underscore controller. Okay, login underscore controller. As you can see, why now are we involving controllers whereas we are supposed, okay, let me just, guys, sorry about that, let me just remove things that I'm putting here for the sake of explaining. Okay, because this is my production code, if I can be honest. Okay, what else? This is supposed to be here. What is it that is not supposed to be here? It's this one. Okay, this, I'm using my production code and I think I didn't back this up. Let me save and see. Oh, this is not supposed to be commented. My apologies about this, but we are back on track. Okay, we are back on track. Okay, now here we are creating this login controller because we know that in our class variable that is here we've got login. Okay, then this login controller, why now are we getting into controllers? Remember, in the MVC pattern, what can I say? I don't think I'm going to use this. I can highlight everything and delete it. In the MVC pattern, we've got the models, we've got the view, and we've got the controller. Remember, the MVC doesn't dictate on how to use it, but it's just there to help you as a pattern. Okay, so this is the controller. Whenever you create a new controller, it means that this controller will talk to a model to get the database information that is needed for this view, and when it's done that, it will then load this view, and then you will see the view here. So once we get into the controller, that means we are very close into loading a view. If this view needs a database, it will organize all the information from that and then take it back and then prepare it so that it can present it to the view. Okay, that's why now we are having controller login controller, because the system in its entirety doesn't communicate directly to the views. It doesn't directly communicate with the views. Where is my login? Okay, let me just quickly show you. This is my login UI component. As you can see, it has got a controller. What's the name of that controller? Voila, it's login controller. So this is the controller that will facilitate communicating with what? With this view. So we are very close, guys. We are about to get into the main thing, which is just loading the login page, and that login page is HTML. So when we have got that, this is empty because we don't have a template, a UI template, and then from then we are going to assign some sort of this controller to that class name. Then this dot final HTML, which is, this is a variable that sits, let's say that is forms as a property of this class. We are using this variable is equal to string value. All HTML, what can I say, elements, they are strings. For instance, if you look at this, these headings and h1 and everything, they start to become a code when they are here in the DOM. But behind the scene, for instance, this, oh my god, okay, behind the scene, this is just a string. This h3, this is just a string. So that's why on PHP we are only having string and we are manipulating strings. Okay, so we are saying that this value, this variable string value is equal to new controller. Do you see now we are instantiating this class of controllers? We are coming here. This is where we are going. Okay, new controller, which is the class that we are passing in, it's login. What type of information are we going to get back? Okay, please guys, bear with me if this looks complicated. Just learn what you can learn from it, but believe me, you will learn a lot from what we are doing here. You will get an understanding of an MVC pattern, how is it practically implemented, and also how do you organize your own code. Okay, we are saying this is a new controller and we are passing, as you can see, we are still passing the dependency injection container. At the moment we haven't used it. I don't remember us using it at the moment because this UI didn't really need anything from that dependency injection container. I don't remember us calling something. In fact, it will be used by any class that communicates to the database, because maybe it will get a get database class. Okay, but let's just continue for now. Okay, what I was trying to explain is we've got a controller here. Now I want to explain this new controller, this view class, and also this view and this dependency injection container. Okay, the controller will be talking to a database class, okay, which is the model, and this is the view. Okay, so the controller, according to this system, the first thing that it needs, this is a new controller, it needs a class name. Okay, why does it need a class name, a string called login in our case? Because in models, the models are named the same way. If we have got login underscore controller, there is also login underscore model. So meaning that anything that relates to the view login, it's login underscore view. If it's a controller for it, it's going to login underscore controller. If it's a model for it, it's going to be a login underscore model. So the controller needs to know the main class that we are dealing with, so that it can, in itself, it can do exactly the same thing. Instead of attaching controller, it will underscore attach the view. That's how it will know it must load this view. If it wants to get the database for this view, it will just say model login underscore model, and then it will create a new model. So where are those files? Here are those files. Okay, we are getting there, guys. Please be patient. I hope you are learning. Okay, this is a controller. Okay, so if the controller wants to load a model, it will just take that login and put underscore and load this model. The model will organize all the database information needed for this view. If it wants to some sort of load the actual HTML, it doesn't communicate directly to this HTML. It's not aware of it. It's only aware of the login underscore view PHP, which is it will load this. I hope you get the idea why there is a class first, which is the same login that we have used here, and there is a view. This variable, it's telling the controller the overall output that we want. It's going to be a view. You are going to render a view. Okay, why must we specify the type of data that we want? Okay, let's say we are here in the code. Remember, now we are using an MVC pattern. We are here in the code. Okay, let me just type something. I hope this is not going to make the the video long unnecessarily, but obviously I have to test it so that you can have like practically how these things work. And also that is what I'm all about, and this channel is all about, is for us, me and you, to become better developers by doing practical things. Okay, now remember I said to you this is a get method and this one it's a post method. Now the system is asking me, please enter your email address. Okay, let's say I enter my actual email address. When I'm clicking send here, this is a post method. In this type of request, even though it's a post request, but I'm not expecting to get back an HTML that I will render on the DOM. I want to what can I say, I want to first perform a task. I'm not expecting to get, what can I say, let's say when I'm getting this email, based on what is going to be done here, as you can see what is being done now. Please bear with me, even though this is saying this has not been saved, but actually the process has been saved, and my email has been saved, and also the confirmation code has been sent. As I've told you that I'm busy modifying this system to make it functional, to make it better, applying solid principle and design patterns. So when I'm triggering this action, I'm not expecting to come back an HTML rendered, but I want something to be done. I want something to be done here. As you can see, here is the code from coded design. As you can see, here is my verification code, and if I want to proceed, I can click this link. As you can see, click this link, and then I'm going to be taken to coded design to verify my email. As you can see, string, this is the email address. Sorry man, this is the code that I have sent, and the email address that was verifying this, it's this one, it's in the database. Okay, also here, as you can see, I'm testing something, so that's why this screen, where is it, this screen gave an error of the database not saved. The system sends back sends back a boolean value. It's supposed to do that and send true to JavaScript, and then JavaScript will do whatever based on true or false. But because of me, I'm busy behind the scene, as you can see, displaying unnecessary information. So now the system is not stable. As you can see, this is not supposed to be there. And also, what else, as you can see here, this is a good information, but here this is me checking after I've called a certain function what is inside this what as you can see, this is not, so that's why it looks like it says didn't save to the database, whereas it saves and it continues. But what I was trying to say is that in this function, I was not interested in getting back HTML. I wanted to ask something from the system, meaning that, did you send the email? Then what must come back is true when everything is done. Do you see that now we have to, as much as this is the view, okay, as much as this is the view, and also this is the model, okay, sorry about that, this is the model, this is the view, and this is the model, and the controller is the mastermind behind controller. Okay, when the view sends a request to the controller, it needs to tell the controller what type of information do you want to get back. This request automatically request an HTML login page automatically, of which, how do we represent that? This is what tells the controller that we are interested in getting back HTML. Whatever you are getting back to us, render it as a string value and send it back, because HTML is just string. Okay, what if maybe we want to send what can I say, let me show you instead of talking about it. Let me show you. This is the screen called this screen, I think, is called verify. Let's just go back to one of our screens here. Let's go to the login screen because I'm 100% sure about the login screen. Let's go to the JavaScript of the login screen. Okay, let's go to the JavaScript of the login screen. If we're here, where is view? This is the JS. Let's just take this to here. Okay, let's check login, the event login. Okay, here we are triggering a login event. Let's look when this JavaScript is communicating with the server and what it sends as a info. You see, expected UI response. This is a post method, as you can see. It's not a get method, and this is interested in getting back a boolean value. Even though the boolean value is going to be the string, when it's done getting it, it have to decide if the data that has been sent back is true, as you can see. So the user interface, whenever it's sending a request, any request that is being sent to the controller, you need to indicate what are you hoping to get back so that the controller can format the information in such a way that you can be able to use it. Okay, so that's why we've got a view here. So when we are asking something, we will tell the controller that we are interested in getting a boolean value. That means we are asking, is this user authenticated or not? If it's true, then they can log into the back end. If not, they cannot log in. Okay, so this is, I can close this one. Okay, I hope this is clear. We are calling a controller, the login controller, okay, which is this one, is equal to new. Here we are going to replace this controller with this word new login controller. That means it's a class instantiated. After that, we will pass a class which is login only, a string, and then we want a view. The overall return value must be an HTML, and we are giving you the dependency injection container. Then let's go to, since now this is a variable, we can't go to definition because the definition of this variable will be declaring the variable. So the actual function name, which is this one, it's hidden. It will mean that we have to go to the login controller manually without using Visual Studio Code. So let's go there manually. Where is my UI container? Okay, here is my UI components. I'm looking for login and I'm looking for login controller. Now I think we're on the 5th file. We didn't display anything. Too much administration, yes, but it's a good programming practice. When we want to change things here, we can come here and do whatever we want with this HTML without breaking the whole system. Instead of putting everything in one place, and then even if I want to change this, then I have to break the back end and the database thing. Okay, so be patient, we are getting there. Here we are creating a new class of controller. It extend an abstract controller. What does this mean? This means that this is inheritance, meaning that this controller has got a lot of code that it will inherit from the parent class. All controllers do so. Okay, they inherit the majority of the code, 90% of the code from here. So even though you might see this as a small class, there is a lot that is being done by its parent. Okay, we're not going to get there at this moment. So when we get here, remember I said that most of the code is done here. Okay, if this UI needs a database, this is the function that will do that. Prepare database. Okay, where is this function sitting? It's sitting in the parent class, and this parent class, it's used by a lot of controllers, but they are using one parent class. So that's the advantage of object-oriented programming. So whenever we are talking about this prepare data, meaning that in the controller, remember I said this is login controller. Yes, I was right, but this login controller extends, it's like it's an extension of a template for controllers. So this template for controllers will only talk to the database when this extending controller needs so. At this point in time, this one doesn't really need that, but the function must be here anyway. Okay, as you can see, this .db data, you got what I'm going to say. So this is how this controller gets the database data, but unfortunately, or luckily for us, this controller doesn't need database information, but some other controllers they do, just like the login controller. The login controller will communicate to the database, okay, because it needs the information from the database. But what am I saying? If I'm saying the login controller does need, and I'm in the login and it doesn't need, there is something wrong with what I'm saying. Okay, the controller that really needs to connect to the database, this one, it's a login controller, yes, but we are just displaying HTML as it is. Okay, then this controller, when we are pressing this, okay, I know you might be confused, but I hope I'm going to explain what I mean. When we are already in login, the first request, we only want HTML. I hope that is clear. When do we then want the database in the login, let's say, controller? It's only when we are clicking here, login. Do you see now this is a different, what can I say, request? This was a get request getting to the controller UI, and it doesn't need to connect to the database because we only want to display. But as soon as we click an event and we ask for something, it means that now this JavaScript sitting here will generate a request. It's going to be the post. Where is it? It's going to be a post request, and it's going to send get database data. The destination, it's looking for a password method, and also it wants a boolean. So obviously now this is not going to make sense, but later I will explain. But when we are loading only HTML, we don't really connect to a database. This is HTML, this is hard-coded, this is hard-coded, this is hard-coded. There's no variable here. There is nothing that comes from the database. Okay, so let's continue. Where were we? Okay, we were done with templater. We were somewhere here in this controller, and it was inheriting a lot of things. Okay, let's continue and see. As you can see, this controller doesn't do much. Okay, now it means that we have to go to the abstract controller, which is the parent class. So this is the advantage of object-oriented programming. It's more like we are having a parent class that will be modified by child classes. Some other child classes will make use of the database, some others won't make use of the database. So this is some sort of what we are doing here. Okay, let me even fit this in here. We've got a class that is more like a big parent class, and then we've got these small controllers that will select what they need from here, use it when they want to, and don't use it when they don't want to. Okay, so what we did, we have just looked at these classes, registration, email verification, and we were like, what is the functionality that they all need, so that we can take that functionality and put it here. Okay, if you ever heard of the concept which is called same difference, that's what we are applying here. What is the same between all these different types of views or requests or whatever? We put all that here, and then what is different with them, whatever that is different with them, we will put it here. So we've got one code that we can just go here and change, and it will work for all the controllers, be it it's a controller for a login, be it it's a controller for a what. Okay, now let's go back to them. Let's go back to this one. It's an abstract controller. Obviously I'm going to jump that step because it's more like it's just abstract. As you can see, this is an abstract. You see there is no much of a code. Also, I have to remove this code here that I'm not using. As you can see, this is just an abstract. It's more like I can say it's a template. It doesn't actually do the actual work. What does the actual work though? Let's see. Okay, this is the abstract controller, né? Okay, let me see, does it really do the work? Oh, okay, it does the work. Okay, I was confusing it with the interface. Okay, sorry about that. My mind was like I'm coming into the interface. As you can see, an interface just sets the contract. As you can see, the interface does nothing. It just tells these guys that you must have this function, you must have this one, and you must have this one. So I'm sorry about that. So this abstract controller is the one that we are looking for. So what it does when it's being instantiated, this function will be called, and this is a default constructor. Okay, let's now put these side by side. Okay, I think we can be able to continue without it. We've got a class here, remember the one that we said is login. We've got a return type. What type of information that's going to be returned? In our case it was a view, but it will be important if I can put that here. I think here is it. Okay, here is it. So that, okay, let me copy this. Okay, and then put it here and comment it. Okay, put it here and comment it. Okay, let's see. Tap a little bit. I hope you guys are learning. Please do me a favor, subscribe and share this information to somebody that might need it. Okay, so when we get here, we've got new controller, which is we are instantiating the place that we are at. We've got a class which is login. What is the return type? We are expecting to get a view. This is a dependency injection container. So as you can see, we are all set. We've got login and we've got the return type. Okay, now again we are taking that dependency injection container, we are assigning it to a variable here so that we can use it into this class. This one is not that much important, we are carrying it through, and it looks like we are going to finish this cycle or request without even using that dependency container. But remember, some other controllers, they use it. Okay, and then from there, let's see what we are doing. This dot model class, do you see now we are starting to get into the database? Dot model class is equal to class which is login underscore model, and then here we are return data from the database. When this view needs a database, this is what is going on. This dot load model, then you put the database information. This is my first time and it's necessary for me to use a magic variable. What is a magic variable? It's a variable that you cannot trace. It's my first time, and this is part of the architecture of the application. What does that mean? It means that the controllers have a right to set their own DB data variable. Here is the DB data variable. As you can see, it's a public variable. They need to set it so that they can tell, this login can tell the parent container that I am going to use the database. Meaning that if you don't set this as this controller doesn't really set anything inside this, so it means that I'm not going to connect to the database. So how does this happen? We are using in this class a variable that has not been declared. That's why Visual Basic or Visual Studio is telling us. But in terms of the actual PHP program, when we are inheriting from this class, you know what it means? It means that this class and this one, they are joined as one class. As much as us, from what we see, we are looking at login controller and abstract controller as if this is a different class and this one is a different class. If we can trace this line, like from this part up to this one, we will find out when PHP is executing this, it treats this inheritance as one class, taking all the information that was from the parent class and taking all the information that was from the child class, and then treats this as one. This means that if the child container has got a value called DB data and it has been assigned, the parent also can gain access to that variable as long as it's public. I know it looks complicated, but please keep on and learn about object-oriented programming and inheritance. So this is that value here, the DB data, when we need the data. In our case, we are not going to where we were. Okay, we are not going to use this because this doesn't connect to the database. Okay, let's just go here. Okay, if the returned type is data, we can only echo this dot return data. When we are interested in getting data from the database, we are going to return this. Remember, this is not returned to, okay, this is returned to the actual user interface. If this is true, there is in the app layer, in the application will take this true and convert it to string and send it back to the controller class. If it's void, the returned value is void. Void happens when an instruction is just going to be executed, when instructions are going to be executed without any returned value. It means that things are just going to be done just like here. Okay, and then if the return value is view, then as you can see, HTML view is equal to this dot render view. Let's quickly go to render view. We are passing a class and this dot returned data, meaning that this is the data that the class will use. It's coming from the database. As you can see, the controller is preparing the data. It is the one that connected to the database when necessary, and it will take that data and will push it to the view. Okay, and then let's just go to render view and see. Sorry about that. Go to definition, look at render view. We are receiving a string class, returned data params. Here I didn't, what can I say, I didn't do the type hinting. I didn't say this is going to be a string. The reason why, it's because the returned data type varies. Sometimes we might be, let's say if the request wants a boolean, this is going to be a boolean. If the request wants an array, this is going to be an array. This is some of the things or some of the places where I just have to bypass that rule, because to be honest, I am not sure. Many requests will need different types of information. Okay, then we are rendering a view here. So returned data is equal to returned param and whatever. We can skip this. The reason why also I don't have power at the moment. In South Africa, we've got something called load shedding. The whole entire city might run out of power, and that's it for a certain time, and then it will come back. Enough about that. Let's continue. Okay, so class is equal to class, which is the login underscore view. Now we are getting closer into views now. Okay, we are getting closer into the views. Okay, after we've got this class underscore view, and then we ask if not is array returned data. As you can see, we are checking if the returned data is not an array, then returned data is equal to, we assign the returned data. Okay, Otherwise, the return data is not an array. Then we are going to say return new class. What is inside here? It's login, new login. The login class has a method called render HTML and pass return data. If we don't have return data, obviously this is going to be empty. So this is where we are going to the login view class. So let's just quickly go to the login view class. Login view class view. Okay, here is it, the login underscore view class, and we are passing the data that we have received from the database. Unfortunately for us, this class doesn't make use of any data because it doesn't need the data. Okay, view directory is equal to view, which is now this render HTML method of this view class. It's the one, so this login view class is the only class that deals directly with HTML. As you can see, that loads the actual HTML. This HTML, if it happens that it needs information from the database, it will receive it through this view data. As you can see, when it needs it, it can use it. Why? Maybe somebody might ask, why are you having this structure that has got a lot of things that this view doesn't need? You do connect to the database, but this view doesn't need. Point in case, what if maybe we might have to connect to a database when it's our first time to load here? For instance, let's say we are loading what just like YouTube. When you get into YouTube, it doesn't ask you to log in, it loads information. So having this structure works for us, because if the client, let's say, might ask us to load something, guess what's going to happen? We're not going to go to the code and change it. We are just going to change the controller so that here there will be something from the database and we can decide here what to do with it. Okay, and then here we are getting file.getContent. We are getting this login.html. As you can see here, this is the only, where am I? I'm lost, and the reason why I'm lost, I'm rushing because the battery is going to die. Okay, but it's going to warn us before. Not sure if I must save or must, let me just not save. Okay, so login controller, nope, that's not what I want. Oh, what I have closed is actually what I was looking for. Okay, let's go back. It looks like the more you are in a hurry, the more you make mistakes. Okay, classes, abstract classes, I want abstract controller. Okay, so this render method of the view, then as we are calling it here, this is login controller. Okay, it looks like I'm lost, but I am going to get back on track. We were here on the controller, we created a new login, and we have want to render HTML method. Okay, that means we are here then, if that's the case. Isn't this login? Okay, no. Okay, let's just go to login again. Okay, here is the view. Okay, this is where we were. So now we are communicating directly to that HTML. We are loading it. Then when we are done loading it, we will return it back as a string. Okay guys, that means I have to quickly pause the video. We will return this as a string, and that's it. It will be loaded here. I have to quickly close the video so that I can stop it. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next one.